So I got a new snake yesterday. It's actually the first snake I've owned now in about 10 years. It's a Kenyan sand boa. I'm gonna go over really quick the setup and a little bit on care of these types of snakes, and I'll take them out and show you them in a second. First off, they're a pretty small snake. Actually, I'll show you them right now since I'm talking about them. They're pretty small snakes. The males get to a maximum of about 2.5 feet, and the females get to a maximum of about 3.5 feet. They're a nocturnal species. They don't really need any UVB light, but they do need hot, dry temperatures. They're like a desert snake, so you're going to want to have a hot, dry enclosure. Hot spots should be at least around 95 degrees, somewhere between 90 and 100 degrees. And I have this digital heat probe in here to just test my temperature. Since I just set up the cage yesterday, I've been testing it. But you're going to want a heat pad under the tank. I have one. You're going to want this to take up about a fourth or a third of the tank. Don't want your heat pad to take up the whole tank. You want to have them have a hot spot and a cool spot. And then you can use a light. I have a UVB light. Like I said, they're a nocturnal snake, so they don't need UVB. But I just had this light and I wanted to throw it on to give the cage a light. So you can put a UVB light on. It's not going to hurt them. Or you can just use a regular light to make the enclosure bright. And you can use a heat lamp if you need one. Now this is just a 10-gallon aquarium, which is fine for a smaller snake. He's not fully grown. He's still probably a juvenile. And this is just a 10-gallon tank. That's fine for them until they start getting to adult age. And I don't need a heat lamp in here really, because as I showed you, the temperature with just the heat pad is around 95 degrees. Plus this light gets pretty hot actually, so it heats it up a little hotter during the day. Now you don't need a water dish usually, but it said on all the sources where I was looking up these snakes that if you have a wire top cage, you can leave a water bowl in there at all times. Oh, he fell. You can leave a water bowl in there at all times because it's not going to really raise the humidity with a wire top cage. Like I said, these snakes need low humidity, so if you're keeping them in a tub or a rack system, you probably shouldn't leave a water dish in there all the time, as it can increase the humidity. But you can give them a water dish, and you can even put in some moss or a sponge in there also during shedding times. If they have any problems shedding, putting the water dish with a wet sponge in there will help them shed. I guess that's pretty much about it. Take them out and show them again real quick. Now these guys, when they're younger like he is, will eat smaller mice and pinky mice, and when they're fully adult size, you can feed them normal size adult mice. Basically how you should range feeding them is you can feed them mice that are just a little bit wider than the snake is. So let's say the diameter of the snake is 1/2 inch. You could feed a mouse that has a stomach diameter of like 7/10 of an inch, a little bit bigger than he is. You don't want to feed him too big of a mouse, but the mouse can be a little bigger than the snake's diameter. And then in the tank, you don't really have to put many above ground decorations. You're going to want to use a substrate of either sand, and if you use sand, make sure it's some type of sand that is safe for them to ingest. You want to feed them in a separate tank anyways, but there are some sands out there that are safe for snakes if they ingest a little bit. So make sure you get a safe sand if you do use sand. Or you can use a wood bedding. If you use wood, make sure it's aspen. Pine and cedar are toxic to snakes, so make sure you use aspen if you do use a wood chip bedding. And pretty much during the day these guys will burrow under and they'll just be pretty inactive. You're not going to see them unless you take them out of the cage. And they're very docile, they're easy to handle. He hasn't tried to bite me at all since I've got him, so they seem easy to handle, but when they're in their cage you're really not going to see them during the day. At night you might see them, and that might be a reason you want to put on one of those red or blue night lights. It might make it easier to watch him at night if he comes out and moves around above. I actually didn't watch him last night, so I'm not sure how active he is at night yet. I'm sure he's active at night, I just don't know if he stays under just kind of swimming in the sand or if he comes out more. So that's about it.